Hi there, everybody. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet.
And Jole Gabrielle here from Elevated Planet, and we'd like to welcome you to today's show. And John is going to tell us more about it.
Yeah, we're continuing the theme from last week, which is really all about the Antarctica kind of thing and what is hidden up there, right? Why is there a no-fly zone? Why is it so militarized over there? And we're digging under the surface. And I think the thing I want to start with actually is just to recap what we went through last week, because for anybody who hasn't seen it, I think it's important just to lay down the bullet points from that. So we're not going to go into it in great detail, but we had Darius J. Wright leading the charge, and he basically told us that going back in time, right? There's hidden lands, right? There's hidden land masses from us. And you say, well, how can that be so? We know what the globe looks like. We know where the continents are. How could there be hidden land masses? Well, this is what we find today. There are hidden land masses. Going back in time, everything Darius told us was available and accessible and higher dimensional. Is when ETs used to be here alongside humanity, and it was a higher dimensional existence. And that was, and you know what? Even in this book here, it talks about that higher dimensional existence. In this, The Hypnotist's Journey to Avalon, which is fantastic. It's a portal, loops people to read it. Wow. Anyway, because in there it's explained that by Thoth, okay, Thoth the Atlantean, explains that yes, there used to be an eighth dimensional version of Earth where people were creators, everything was creators, there were all sorts of animals and exotic creatures all over, and it was a land of perfect harmony and balance. But then this ascension idea came into being, which is that Mother Earth wanted to go through the ascension program, which meant creating duality and polarity, which meant that we had to effectively go through this adventure that we've been on now for thousands of years. Now, bear that in mind as to how, that was explained by Darius, is that, it was effectively a heaven on earth. And that aligns with what Thoth the Atlantean said through the hypnotist's journey to Avalon. The hidden land masses, the Antarctic Treaty is kind of created to stop people from going over that way and seeing what really is there. And we're going to get into that. And when he did his out-of-body remote viewing in Antarctica, he could see giant bodies that were in stasis under the ice that had been there for thousands of years. And again, it aligns with what of the many things we've heard about the different kind of extraterrestrials that were there. There were some very, very large, very, very large ones there, right? So I think that kind of aligns. He said there are various pyramids still acting as activation points. So that was kind of what Darius said in his piece. And then Sarah Breskman Cosme, who was the author of this, basically, but that's channeled work really effectively through the gift of hypnotic regression, because that comes from various clients who have lived these lives and know this knowledge and actually shares it. And they said that actually told us that there are multiple government bases, including Nazi Base 211, which has been there since the Second World War. There's ET civilizations beneath the ice. It is a hollow earth, and there is an inner earth. There are 4 gates into the inner earth, which are guarded by beings. There are ancient civilizations and pyramids with different functions. Governments are up there, are down there, should I say, because they are reverse engineering a lot of the extraterrestrial technology along with environmental weather weapons that they have used against the population from time to time. We've spoken about this a lot over the last few years. Many of these guardians are linked with negative energy sources that feed off fear and control. So those that are doing that stuff, the reverse engineering and the weather weapons, they are the ones that are the fear and control merchants. So their time is coming. Trust me. There is a critical forthcoming nexus point where we choose to advance either only through technology or spirituality, and we decide that at an individual level. So it's not just a collective decision, it is kind of where we are in our frequency relative to where this nexus point offers us the opportunity to go to dimensionally. And we have to be to match the frequency of the higher dimensions if that's where we would like to go. Okay, again, all from the hypnotist journey through Sarah Breskman Cosme. So where we choose to advance only through technology or spirituality at an individual level. Sorry for repeating myself. So this is a vital decision because it shapes who we become. We are at that crossroad right now. Emotions guide everything we see and experience. Emotions are unstoppable forces of creation within the human being. And when we connect our heart to our pineal gland and let go of all worry, we begin to evolve into a light body. We can become superhuman by mastering and controlling our emotions. And again, we've spoken about this at length because Jole and I have got our moon alchemy meditations that we're doing with a number of people at the moment. And that is all about getting into that emotional slipstream, if you like, to create your new reality. So anyway, that's setting the backdrop to that. Is there anything from last week on that you would care to add, Jolé?
No, I think that some of the stuff that I'd like to add from last week is coming up this week, but I just want to get people kind of, I guess, juiced up for remembering and returning
Yes.
back to your divine self and really expanding and opening up to that. Because we have so much self-doubt. I mean, it is collectively an issue for us because of our programming. So to really step into the energy of knowing that you can return to wholeness, I'm just asking you guys to kind of open yourself up to that possibility.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And you'll again, as you see, as the program unfolds, it'll become clearer and clearer where this is all going. And we're going to go to the first part very shortly because we have a lot to get through. And the first part involves a piece from Dolores Cannon from Convoluted Universe 2. Anybody who watches this show regularly knows what a big fan I am of Dolores's work, how much I have learned about the truth of who we are and what we're here for, right? So much of it came through Dolores's work. It's brilliant. She was the one who created quantum healing hypnosis technique, which allows people to go into somnambulistic trance where the conscious mind is not in the way and allows them to access whether it's previous lives or information through the subconscious which is not accessible at the physical level. Okay, that is important to realize because when you listen to this, she has got Bob, this is the subject for this one, who is under hypnotic regression, and this is his journey. Okay, so that's first thing to bear in mind. It does go into a 3-minute piece by Elizabeth April directly afterwards, which again sets the scene for another part by Elizabeth. It is fantastic, and what you've got to bear in mind with that, we've already skipped out a bit of Elizabeth's one. And what you have to bear in mind is that she was exploring Antarctica because she'd heard about this fact that there was supposed to be an ice wall and there's this flat Earth kind of idea that there's a big ice wall around Antarctica. So she thought she would do the remote viewing thing and go and see if she could find the ice wall. That was what began that. Now, she originally went back there between 2010 and 2011 to this military base when she was first doing her remote viewing, way before she was doing anything more publicly, if you like. And she did meet with a hybrid reptilian who could see her. And that's kind of the backdrop to this. That base is still active. So once you go into that, that then leads on directly from what I've just told you. So bear that in mind. What do you reckon, Jolé? Do we hit the button?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. All right. And thanks, guys, for coming and joining us today. And we look forward to going through this with you and welcome your comments as we go through. So here we go.
He felt comfortable with her and agreed to allow her to lead him somewhere that would be appropriate. He took her hand and she led him downward through an opening into an underground tunnel. The tunnel unexpectedly came out into an unusual place.
We're in this large open-air space, but I can sense that there's a roof above our heads, a much different distance above. It is like being inside a cavern, a very, very large one. It is very nicely lighted. There are trees everywhere. I sense that it is a very gentle place to be. Many very beautiful buildings and all pastel shades. There are trees and lawns and gardens and beautiful flowers and animals running every which way.
This is all underground?
Yes, yes, yes. It is very well lighted. It seems to radiate from a central sun that can be seen quite easily. It's not the same brightness as our sun on the surface. Grayish in shade, but it puts out a beautiful light. The buildings here and everything else looks just like it would if you were looking outside in our sunlight. And it maintains a temperature of approximately 72 to 75 degrees, and it never gets hot. It does rain, but that's of course programmed into it.
This sounds unusual to have all of this underground, doesn't it?
Well, it's been there for many, many millions of years. And of course their technology is now far surpassing ours to the point where some of us come and go from here quite often. But we never realize we do. And I've been one of those people that have been there many times in the past.
You said there are also animals down there?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Many animals that we see on this planet all the time. But there are many other types that people wonder about, that you never see that often. For instance, there's one that is a big swimming animal that they only get glimpses of, a Loch Ness monster type of thing. They come up from underground channels through the earth, and occasionally they swim into them and pop up above ground places, because they can go either way.
So there's water down there too?
Oh, yes. Actually, there's almost as much water down inside the planet as there is on top. It gets there by flowing through the various fissures through the actual crust of this planet. And some, of course, comes in from the polar openings on both ends of the planet.
You said there are cities under there?
Yes, everything that you could ever hope to imagine, including one of the greatest computers in the entire universe. Far, far in excess of anything on the surface.
What does that look like?
Actually, it isn't just a little piece of something like we see here, but it's literally acres and acres and miles, all self-contained. It stores all the main universal knowledge. You can walk along these nice, beautiful garden paths, like if you were on a 20-acre farm, for instance. There are flower beds, little patches of roses, and all sorts of other really exotic plants. You could walk down these little pathways and go into various garden plots or flower plots. And you could find yourself in a raised chair, or it's more like a lounge bed. And you get on it like you would try to get on a hammock. And it doesn't swing, it sort of stabilizes. But as you sit down into it, and then pull your legs over onto it and lean backward, it encases you like a banana peel. It's a machine which you can then ask a question, and automatically you can travel anywhere in the universe that you want. You can do it that way. It's also a learning machine. It will teach you anything that you need to know or want to know. It's also a virtual reality machine which will allow you to travel. You can use that type of conveyance. Or if you don't want to use that, we do a more physical body transport. You can go up the little steps into what they call portals, but basically what surface people call stargates. You walk in there, and you can literally transport yourself anywhere in the known universes that you want to go. You take your body with you, and you can also come back. There are also high-speed tunnels interwoven like a spider web where trains will pass through the interior of the Earth at more than 3,000 miles an hour. That's very commonplace. It takes a mere matter of an hour to go someplace. This is only one of the planets in the entire known universes. But it's pretty much generally the case because they're all hollow. Most have civilizations living inside. And we have a continual fleet of interstellar ships that travel between all of these worlds on quite a regular basis. You sometimes see them here, but generally we have these so-called cloaking devices that sort of crop up out of these science fiction movies you people show on the surface television systems, called Kingdom Cloaking Device. All of the ships have them. It is just standard procedure.
Why would people want to live underground rather than on the surface?
It's safer. There are secondary reasons. You have on planet Earth something that is called the frequency barrier. The frequency barrier is lessening now because you're traveling close to the new frequency change on planet Earth. That's basically what everybody's waiting for. That's why there's so much interest from intergalactic races. We can come here and watch all this happen. Basically, while you can't necessarily see it on your Earth instruments, we're aware of it. And now we can gauge this on our instruments that are much more refined than yours. So we're all waiting, because it's upcoming very shortly.
He was speaking of the frequency changes leading up to the creation of the new Earth. But we don't think of the Earth as being hollow because we think there is magma at the center of the Earth.
But that's one of those cute little stories they get you to believe on the surface. They tell you all sorts of untruths. Actually, your surface of this planet is 800 miles thick. Underneath that, it's entirely hollow. The sun that we have inside is 600 miles in diameter. It was brought in millions of years back and installed there. But the people who remain here are going to be inside the planet. It's not affected inside. It's only affected on the outside. The 800 miles within that crust is where your planetary magnetism actually comes from. It's not the center. Your volcanoes all come from the friction of rocks sliding back and forth within the frame. The center is very hollow, and of course has the sun, as I've indicated. All other planets are similar to this same construction. So with the friction of the rocks sliding upon each other, this builds your volcanoes. All your volcanoes are subsurface. Maybe a couple of them go down 200 or 300 miles, but they don't go all the way to the center of the planet.
Have you had many lives under the planet?
I've been inside several times in the course of my lifetimes on this planet. You see, it's different there. Because outside you have lives, or other places you have lives. And inside planets you literally can live forever if you want to. Actually, most of my lives were out and about someplace or another.
Other planets?
Yes, you move around from one lifetime to another. It's whatever you need to accomplish. The whole universe is just like a super big school. You go from one place to another depending on what you need to learn.
Do you stay very long at each place?
Whatever length of time you need in order to complete your lesson or whatever you're working on, your project. And don't forget, some of us are millions of years old. We live forever, technically.
Okay, military base underground Antarctica, quiet but hybrid soldiers patrolling. Yes, still a communication hub. That's what I saw, that it was still a communication hub, and very specifically a communication hub for something very important. And let's get into this thing that's really important, okay? Actually, yeah, okay. So this is the real reason for the mystery. So there's a lot of people, like, there is prohibited airspace in Antarctica. There is like very heavy military presence there. There's heavy restrictions there. There are like people and influencers that have gone there and then they get really weird about it afterwards. And I know why, okay? And unfortunately, all of the mystery and all of the intrigue and all of the sort of restrictions and limitations, it fuels the ice wall theory. It fuels the flat earth theory. And absolutely it would, because there's a lot of stuff that is being hidden there. Not to mention, I believe that the Google satellite, Google Maps or Earth, and NASA, like all of the images of the planet are always covering stuff up all around Antarctica, okay? So of course there's going to be intrigue there. Of course there's going to be mystery. Of course it's going to fuel some of these theories. Here's why, okay? And I saw this the first time I went to Antarctica, and I did not know what I was looking at because I'd never been there before. There is a giant hole in Antarctica. We're talking like a massive hole, okay? That would absolutely be seen by satellites, that they absolutely cover up or Photoshop or whatnot. And the military base is actually right beside this hole, okay? So what is the hole and where does it go? This hole goes deep, deep, deep underground, and then it emerges to a giant, essentially hollow earth or inner earth civilization and community. Like, it's wild under there. Like, it actually looks like a tropical rainforest, right? Like, how is that even possible? They have a, I don't know if I want to call it like a manufactured sun down there, but they have their own light source that fuels the whole ecosystem. There's a giant ecosystem down there. It feels like it's above ground, but it's absolutely not. And then there are beings down there. There are many, many, many different beings down there. And I got to go into it because this video is going to be more about inner earth. I should probably change the title now that I think about it. Okay, I'm just going to read from my notes for a second because I want to get all the points. So the real reason for the mystery in Antarctica is the hiding the hole, right? Hiding the entrance to the inner earth civilization, preventing people from entering or people from leaving.
So, fascinating stuff. And what I love about this, and you'll see more of this as we get deeper into Elizabeth's piece here, but the amount of information that corroborates from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, that they are not at odds with each other at all, that they are talking about exactly the same thing independently. And that's important, right, from a credibility point of view, because this is so far beyond the mainstream version that we have been spoon-fed as reality for our lifetimes. Okay, so I completely understand that many people would see this as deluded nonsense, but I think a lot of people who actually watch our channel, their minds are open, right? That's the reason why you're watching. And some of you may have looked at this in the past and kind of gone to understand this now. And I find it's really powerful to really take this on board. And again, we'll get deeper into this in the next section. But there's a few things I wanted to just kind of mention to you, because one of the things that was spoken about was this idea that there was like a raised chair. So this is what Bob was talking about under hypnosis, like going back to explain what it's like in the inner earth, in the hollow earth. And he was saying about the chairs, right? They have these chairs that you can sit in and they kind of wrap around you like a banana peel, and you can travel and you can do this and you can do that. Now, interestingly, now again, for those who've been with us a while, you'll have been through all this already, but Transylvanian Sunrise, Radu Cinamar is a brilliant author of factual books that began because of the revelations going back to 2003, when ground penetrating radar became way more advanced and they realized that there was a hidden chamber inside the Bucegi Mountains in Transylvania in Romania. And there was no access point to it, so they had to create an access point. But the US military wanted to work with the Romanians because obviously it was in Romanian territory, and coincidentally they let them into NATO at the same time as one of the reasons why they were able to do this. Of course, this was top secret and hush hush. But anyway, they buried deep into the mountain where they could see this cavern was. And interestingly, there's a sphinx there as well. There's in fact, what you see on the front of that cover there, that is known as the Romanian Sphinx, right at the site where next to where they were excavating, coincidentally, okay? Because when they went in, they discovered in this chamber, and it was protected. It was protected as a frequency protection, okay? Because the first 3 soldiers who went in there, who were told not to, but they did it because they were just too excited about getting through, they died instantly because their frequency did not match the frequency of the chamber they were going into. Now, the guy who was leading the expedition, he understood all these kind of things, and he tried to prevent anybody from doing that. He was able to go in and reset it because, again, he was a hugely high vibrational kind of guy. And what was there was like a holographic projector room where, and again, it was guessed to be no less than 50,000 years old. It was built by beings who were obviously bigger than humans. But they had various things that you could go and interrogate this holographic projection, and it would give you the real history of life. So they weren't allowed to share that because the Americans kept a lid on everything. the Romanians themselves were actually trying to share information, which is why these books even exist, right? But they were limited in what they could say. But they actually saw the true history of humanity, which bears no resemblance to your history books at all. Forget them all. But within this other book by Radu Cinamar, okay, is the etheric crystal. Because one of the things about Transylvanian Sunrise, it also revealed there were 3 tunnels that came off from that holographic projector room. One tunnel came up in the in Tibet, right? So over in the Himalayas. The other tunnel came up on the Giza Plateau, okay? And the third one went deep into inner Earth, and there were expeditions down into inner Earth. So we know that connections have been made with governments. And in fact, in this book, Radu actually does give us more information about it. He talks about a number of civilizations that he's met while he's been down there, and he describes a chair that they came at. Actually, there was a tunnel that went in under Baghdad, Iraq, which was one of the things the Americans knew before they'd gone in there as well in 2003 or whatever it was that they went into to Iraq, because they wanted access to that chamber as well, because within that was this ancient advanced technology, which included the chair, right? Now, if you have a look sort of like that, for instance, I'll hold that up. You just about get a view of that. This is kind of what it looked like. And it was made for beings who were bigger than humans, okay? But what they did then is that they recreated it. They reverse engineered it, and spent a lot of time going through the science. And this book has loads on the science that sits behind it and why it works and how it works. He also connected with in the underground world with beings from Sirius. Okay, so bear that in mind when you get to that next section. And there were also not just those, but there were others as well. Is it Anshaw? Anyway, it'll come back to me. But again, these books are really recommended because they are fascinating and they take you to a completely different world. But what it is totally backing up what we're hearing here from a variety of other people. Interestingly as well, I think I always go back to, again, this book. I mean, it's all juggling books now, isn't it? But The Hypnotist's Journey to Avalon. The Templar Knights, we know from there, were hiding artifacts deep into the tunnel networks in the earth. Now, who's aware of tunnel networks within the earth? I certainly wasn't. If I go back maybe 3 years ago, before I started digging deeper under the surface, literally. And this is where they were taking things like the Holy Grail was taken to a place in Nova Scotia, in Canada. And there were tunnels that the Holy Grail was taken to there for safekeeping, along with various crystals that have been, they're super powerful crystals, but in the hands of the wrong people would be dangerous. So again, they went into the tunnel network, which they may well have finished up in the inner earth, in the hollow earth, because it was more for safekeeping, because that is a higher vibrational, high frequency environment. It isn't the same as it is on the surface, okay? Now, we think surface dwellers is what it's all about. We don't, we weren't even taught that it was even feasible to do what is being described here. Also interesting to note that the suggestion is that all planets are typically made in this way, and people live in the middle. So when we're looking at barren planets, they're not barren, okay? And I know there's the work of Elena Danaan, and she talks about she went on a trip to Neptune, as you do. But again, there is a massive civilization on Neptune, and there is a Stargate on Neptune. Bizarre, I know. If you haven't researched this stuff, if you're on the mainstream side of things, you'll just think, wow, we'd better book him in for a few sessions or somewhere, a comfortable room with cushions on the walls. But nevertheless, that's kind of the way it goes. So yeah, it's all about this subterranean existence. Also, Admiral Byrd, again, we did a program on him, or a show on him, maybe about 3 years ago. But like in 1947, he accessed the Crystal City, as he called it, through the North Pole. Now, all his information, which he wrote down, he was never allowed to release. But once he died, then that information became available and shared with his family, and it's been leaked out all over the place. So again, it sounds like nonsense, but he was given a very specific message by the beings about living in harmony and balance on the planet, for instance. Okay. Now, okay. So that's kind of all I want to say on that element for now. And I'm going to bring Jole back for your thoughts, and then I'll build us into next part.
Again, we're reiterating about I know even for me, for all you doubting Thomases out there, I'm at the front of the line, especially when it comes to some of this stuff, because we always want the science-backed information. We want to see pictures and receipts and this and that. I get it. But at the same time, we've been lied to. Things have been covered up. And this keeps coming up time and time again when we rip the covers off of things. And now here we are with the truth. And for some reason, we trot right back over it, back into darkness. But this time, it's very clear that there's something going on this earth plane that's greater than what we know and have been taught. We've been dumbed down. So if Mother Earth is holding these secrets and these tunnels and these places of magic, you're made of the same stuff, you know? And so it's such a wonderful experience to remember who you are and to go about this journey, taking the time to reactivate and activate the God within you, that God energy. And that's kind of what it's about. We do have our own physical 3D world that we live in, and no one's asking you to forget about that or to go off grid. I mean, that is a choice. Nevertheless, you can still live amongst this energy and bring your light. And that's what the activation and returning to your greatness and who you are is so important, is because the collective is going to be, we can all raise our frequency and vibration is what I'm trying to say, but it starts with us. It starts within. So take this trip and this journey of remembering. She said we need to, well, I guess we haven't gotten there yet, but you'll see Elizabeth April as she unpacks, and she gives you the languaging around how to embody that. So it's exciting.
It is. It is. And in fact, as you were saying, that really made me think. And I just reached for this book again, the Radu Cinamar
Uh-huh.
Etheric Crystal, because there is a passage that I'd already highlighted when I was reading this maybe a year or so ago, talking to exactly that point that you make about this spirituality versus science. Okay. And he's written a passage here, which I thought I had read it earlier. And I thought, it would be a good one to read. And since you just led me directly into it, Jolly, thank you. Albeit unconsciously. Here it says, at a certain degree of development and technological advancement, science is coupled with spirituality. At that level, things seem to be normal for a common man because, prior to that, he is not able to understand their real meaning. He does not understand the principles, causes, modalities by which information becomes accessible or is used and transmitted. What he considered until then to be science fiction or even impossible proves to be fully possible and real. Here it is necessary to change the paradigm of thought, without which we will remain prisoners of primitive and very limited conceptions. So, that's one of the things that really struck me as being something that was in line with that. And it kind of also talks again to the moon alchemy sort of stuff that we're doing, right? Because you have to understand that we have these superpowers, and it comes back to emotions, and it comes back to immersing ourselves in the wish fulfilled, but it's all part of the mix of science and spirituality together is what it's really all about.
Yes, absolutely. And even when it comes to you ask for intuition and guidance and look for the earth plane or for the earth to kind of guide you. It works that way, as above, so below. And it works the same way with everything in the universe. So once we get into that flow, it is so helpful. Synergies just start happening. So that's why John and I are here, and that's why the moon alchemy exists, is to get us in rhythm. That is one of the laws of the universe, is to be in rhythm with the flow of Mother Earth and the collective. And so that's one of the reasons why it's important for us to bring our best selves into the collective at times, meaning work and where there's people around, because there's just so much, a lot of good happening, and we want more of that. And the focus on the negative is just that. It's a distraction, nothing more. What is really happening in our world is beauty, is joy, is laughter, is connectivity, is love. That is what our world is made of. That is where we began to remember. We love each other. We're compassionate. We forgive. Those types of things help us raise that frequency and vibration. And then where are we? Our lives are filled with unspeakable beauty.
Well said, Jolé. I'll back that 100%. Thank you.
Yes.
So, should we go into part 2 now?
Yes.
Okay. So again, to set the scene, because I've cut out a bit again because of brevity and not wanting the show to run on too long. But what Elizabeth discovered is that 3 world events ago, right? And she said there's been, as it turns out, there have been 7 iterations of Earth that have come and gone through various kind of cataclysms or whatever. And 3 world events ago, the inner Earth was an absolute thriving community. Now it still is to an extent. And there are ancient civilizations there. There are ancient structures. There are ancient sites. There is sacred land. It was greatly inhabited. And one of the things that she saw down there were the Mayan race, okay? Because when it came to Atlantis, one of the escape routes was actually into the inner Earth, and they still reside down there now, along with a lot of other indigenous populations. And we'll come back to that after the event, because Jolé and I had an interesting conversation on this. As well as many extraterrestrials, there are ancient technologies, governments, and the governments try to prevent knowledge of its existence. Anyway, that is now just leading us into this second part, so I'm going to shut up now, and I am going to transfer screens, and we will move forward. Bear with me a second.
So then, right? So then I'm like, you know what? I really didn't see much about this ice wall and this, like, these other lands or continents. So why not go into the hole? Like, why not just like creep around a little bit, right? So that's what I did. I'm just going to read off my notes because I don't remember all the details. Restrictions around, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay. So this is what I wrote down. Restrictions around inner Earth opening are getting released. And I don't know why, right? But it seems like there was a lot of restrictions. I'm just repeating myself now, but it seemed like there were a lot of restrictions around the whole of inner Earth, and now they're getting released. I also want to mention, I know it's going to sound crazy, but I'm just going to put it out there because I saw it as a possibility. Strange creatures possibly escaping from inner Earth in Antarctica. And I specifically saw like flying creatures. So they could potentially look like more prehistoric flying creatures. They could potentially look like mythical flying creatures, like maybe like dragon-like type creatures, or like, I don't know what they would be, but there's a potential for species to escape or to leave inner Earth, which is fascinating. And that would be like some weird stories, I guess, coming out of Antarctica, or people like on boats or cruise ships around Antarctica, like seeing weird things. Oh yeah, okay. Then this was weird. This is what I saw. There's inner Earth outlets, is what I called it, all over the world. And what I mean by that is like, basically there's other inner Earth gateways and doorways and holes all over the world. And some of them are actually underneath the oceans. And so there is movement in and out of inner Earth every once in a while. Like I said, it is restricted, but the restrictions are being lifted right now. Okay, and then I saw that the power dynamics are shifting. The old world is falling, and people are being distracted. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. All right. So before I get here, I want to talk about this being that I ended up meeting in the inner Earth community just today when I remote viewed it. So I go down this hole, right? And I'm taking a look around, and I wanted to talk to someone who could maybe provide answers about inner Earth and about humanity and about what's going on right now. And I've ended up meeting this being called Nasani, is what she called herself, Nasani, Nasani. And she, oh shoot, I actually have a picture of a very similar looking being. Hold on, let me go get it. Okay, this isn't her, but it looks similar to what she looks like. That's kind of what she looks like. Not exactly. So anyway, her name is Nasani, hybrid elemental Syrian being. She was down there, and then she was talking about how everyone is distracted by looking up, and they're all forgetting about their history. That's what she said. Everyone is distracted by looking up. And she was kind of referencing like cosmic disclosure from above. And she's saying that we're forgetting about what's always been below us, which is this huge inner earth, hollow earth community and civilization. So then I asked her, right? So then I get into a conversation and I start writing down verbatim what I'm asking and what she's responding with. So I'm just going to be reading from my notes. I said, why don't you guys just show up? Like point blank, like why don't you just sort of come out and say, hi, we're here. Here's what she said. It was so fascinating. Contamination. She said that they're really worried. Like they've been down there for so long. And then I guess up here has been getting so bad that they can't actually come up here because of the amount of contamination. And when I asked her what she means by contamination up here, she said the air and the frequencies. The frequency contamination and essentially the toxins contamination, like their bodies could not handle it. So she said that they could come up, and it is something that they have talked about, but they would have to be in suits or some sort of protective gear, and it just wouldn't be the same. And I just thought that was so fat. Like what an interesting answer of like, why wouldn't you just show yourselves, you know? Like you want us to know about you, so why don't you just show up? And she's like, it's too contaminated. And I'm like, damn, we got to clean this planet up. Okay, then I had to ask, are there land masses being hidden from us? Because of the whole ice wall theory and then like these continents or land masses beyond the ice wall, I had to ask her, are there land masses being hidden from us? And she literally said, we are on one. Being like essentially implying that the Antarctica landmass is being hidden from us. Like we're on one right now that is being hidden from us. I thought that was also a very interesting answer. So then I got into the nitty gritty, right? I have to. I said, do you have hope for humanity? Like straight up, do you have hope for humanity? And she said, surprisingly, more than ever. So nice. Then I said, right? Then why does it seem worse up here? I'm so glad that you have more hope than ever, but why is it worse than ever, right, up here? She said, that is only what you are being led to believe, that it's getting worse here. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. But also that makes sense. Like we're feeding into the narrative that it's getting worse, and behind the scenes, things are shifting. And they being the shadow government, they don't want us to know that things are shifting and they're getting better, and like the ascension is here and it's unstoppable. Anyway, I will not rant about that. Then I asked, are you connecting with the governments at all on planet Earth? Like, wouldn't you think, right, that a giant inner Earth civilization would be talking with the governments or the shadow governments up here? And she said, they try to keep us quiet. So obviously they know about each other. And obviously now I realize the underground Antarctica military base is right beside the giant hole of the inner Earth opening. That is the mystery. That is the intrigue. That is the conspiracies, right? That's the cover-up. That's the no-fly zone, is all that. So she said they try and keep us quiet. So then, she did say, on top of that, we do work with alternative organizations for the benefit of humanity. So then I said, what is one big thing that you're working on right now, right? If she's saying like, oh, we're working with other organizations for your benefit, I kind of want to know, what are you working on? You know, how are you helping? And then she said, disclosure. That's what they're working on right now. Disclosure so that you know the truth. She said, we have the knowledge and, oh, this is so fascinating. Hold on. She said, we have the knowledge and wisdom to bring you back to your original DNA blueprints. And then she said, before the fall. So let me just read that again. We have the knowledge and wisdom to bring you back to your original DNA blueprints before the fall. I was like, what do you mean the fall? Like, what is the fall? So I had to ask. She said, this is fascinating. Take it or leave it, guys. All right. This is just relaying information. So I said, what was the fall? Or what is the fall? Like, what are you talking about? And she said, when codes were inserted to ensure your demise through disease, shortened lifespans, and lack of memory. Let's just take that in for a second, okay? So she is essentially saying that the Inner-Earth civilization has the original blueprints, right, for humanity's DNA, like our original DNA, and that they have the technology to bring that back in us. But she's also saying that at a certain point in time in human history, they, I guess, either the shadow government or the reptilians or the Dracos or whoever, right, who's kind of been in charge and manipulating, they sort of limited our lifespans, they cut off our memory, and they inserted these codes in order to bring on disease for population management, essentially, right? This is what she's saying. And apparently the Inner-Earth civilization can bring us back to our original DNA blueprints, which is wild. I'm like, I did not expect this whole thing to go this direction, you know? Anyway, that's what's like the beauty of remote viewing. You have no idea what to expect. Okay, so then I had to ask, what needs to happen in order to get back there? That's great. There was a fall, there was corruption, there was, limitation, there was depopulation. What needs to happen in order for us to get back to these blueprints? Like, what do we need to do? Do we need to go to Antarctica and knock on your door and say, bring me back, restore my natural DNA? And then she said, which we've heard before from other ETs, mostly off-planet, she said, remember who you are and ask to be returned collectively. So like, all right, it's one thing to go through a spiritual awakening and be like, I'm ready to remember who I am. And maybe you go through some past lifetimes, or maybe you have a weird dream, or maybe you have like some like spontaneous spiritual awakening and you're clairaudient all of a sudden. And I've seen all of that, okay? But she's specifically talking about as a collective, as a civilization, we need to be asking for more. We need to be asking to remember, and we need to be asking to be returned to our original divine state. I think that there's a lot of information here for us to sit on. I think it's really important for us to realize that, yes, disclosure can come from above, but we also need to realize that disclosure can come from underneath us. And if ancient Mayan civilizations and indigenous civilizations and other extraterrestrials are all existing down there, especially with our original blueprints, like, what does that mean for us? And what happens if we make full contact with them? What happens if we ask for contact with them, right? We're all distracted by these government released files and other things. But what if it's just a giant distraction also away from the Inner-Earth civilizations, and why isn't that a conversation that we're having more often? And I truly believe now, looking into it, that that is the greatest cover-up in Antarctica right now. That is exactly why there is a hidden underground military base right there, right? It is to ensure that nothing goes into Inner-Earth and nothing comes out of Inner-Earth. But with these restrictions being lifted and resources dwindling on the side of the shadow government, what is that going to mean for inner-earth civilization and all of us moving forward? I think the possibilities are endless.
Fascinating stuff. I love this. And again, coming back to the point that I kind of highlighted there, which is about the work of Drunvalo Melchizedek, which we've covered in recent weeks as well. Talking about the evolution of humanity and the fact that the frequencies are rising. But one of the things that he alluded to in the latest version of the Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life, Volume 3, Awakening the Illuminated Heart. And again, you'll have seen this on that video, and I'm gonna tag the video on to the end, or I might put it in the details below as well, so you'll be able to catch up with that video if you want to look at it in more detail, because it is fascinating. I'm going to just read you this very short passage. Drunvalo says, approximately 6,000 years ago, nearly all pineal glands in human brains experienced memory loss, resulting in a worldwide phenomenon. This led to a significant loss of memories and abilities among humans. And then he says that this is again what he began to do. He says, I began working with my pineal gland and discovered that I can communicate with him, as he calls his pineal gland, as if I am speaking to another person. Everything in my life has changed dramatically. Now, I don't know whether it's just coincidence, because this is only an elevated planet theory, that what is discussed there about that memory loss, right? The closing of the pineal gland does exactly that. Now, we are getting to a time where everything is coming back online. How exciting is that? We know there's been some skullduggery in the background. We know we're supposed to actually live arguably for as long as we choose to live. That is the way we're going to be ultimately heading. So none of this, 80, 90 years old typical existence kind of thing. This will be a choice about when we choose to cross over. But first, we have to raise our frequencies. We have to get to this back to what our original DNA blueprint, right? And that is really where it gets exciting, because the fact is we have to ask for that collectively, and Jolé will help us with that. Now, a couple of other things that I wanted to mention about the holes, the portals all over the world. Now, I saw this image, and if you've researched this subject before, you might have seen this image before, but I'm just going to call it up, so just bear with me a second. There it is. Right, this image here, the hollow earth, fact or fiction. And I just find that what I like about this, it actually aligns with, that first section we did with Dolores Cannon with Bob. There was somebody before Bob in that same chapter, and that was a larger section, but where she first started to find out about, the Agartha side of things, the hollow earth. And then the last piece by Bob was getting into the detail. So Bob's piece was kind of really fantastic. But that person who was also under hypnosis was talking about the city of Shambhala. And you'll see right there is the city of Shambhala, okay? Right over here. So, and then you've got all these different tunnels coming up in different things, like pyramids of Giza. We know there are tunnels under the pyramids of Giza. We know that I mentioned about the Transylvania sunrise, when they came up with the tunnels in Romania, which ultimately come up under the pyramids of Giza. And they've found through that, again, that ground penetrating radar, yes, absolutely tunnels go there. But not just that, but, you got Kentucky Mammoth Caves over here. They are kind of referenced with the Templars as well as being one of the access points that they used to have. So I'm just sure that the Templars used to access the inner earth environment. That they were very spiritual and very wise on a lot of levels, and I think that would have been a connection between the outer world and the inner world. Just my theory, okay? And again, where it's got this about the center of gravity, 400 miles down, because it can't be that the center of gravity is in the center of the earth for scientific reasons, because it could lead to all sorts of disasters. So the real center of gravity that is about 400 miles down of an 800-mile section that we go under the earth, with obviously with the ice caps being sort of access points. And again, as it says here, Admiral Byrd's flight of 1947, and so much more. So you can research that at your will, really. Anyway, coming back. So I found that really interesting. One other thing I wanted to just mention, or two other things to mention. Now, I mentioned about the fact that Elizabeth found that there's a Mayan culture that exists within the Earth, and they've been there since the fall of Atlantis, okay? An escape route. Now, I'm sure, maybe not all the Mayans went there, but that is where a Mayan civilization exists right now. But not only that, but indigenous populations. Now, I remember I read a book, maybe, I don't know, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, about the Trail of Tears. The Trail of Tears, which was, that agonizing 1,000 odd mile journey through all sorts of terrain with very little, it was a horrible experience, put it that way. We know that, right? Anybody who knows anything about the Trail of Tears. But on that journey, again, the author of the book, who was one on the trail, talks about the fact, and bearing in mind the indigenous folks were still very connected spiritually. They're very connected to their spirit animals. They were very connected to the earth, very connected to all this. But the ant people came up from out of the earth and offered them refuge within the earth. Okay, several of the indigenous tribe, with the agreement of the rest, actually went into the earth. So the fact that there were inner earth dwellings at that point, some were able to escape, but also a lot of them knew that they had to carry on through the Trail of Tears. They couldn't all just disappear, because somebody had to be the wisdom keepers on the surface, and they were the ones who sacrificed the most, because it was, an awful time. But because of them, the indigenous wisdom survives, even though it was attempted to be crushed out of them at that time. But that's why there'd be more indigenous populations under the earth as well. So I just find that really interesting. And just one of the things to mention as well. They mentioned about the fact that the good news is being suppressed, right? The bad news always gets accentuated. That is just the story we get. And it's good to hear it from an external source, that is just basically the story we're being told. But the reality is that the frequency is going up, that more and more good things are happening around us, but don't expect it to be reported on the news anytime soon. As long as we know it here, we know we're heading in the right direction, and we can keep raising our frequency, and the frequency of the collective around us be a beacon for others. It's really exciting. So that said, I am going to be quiet now, because I want to bring back in the wonderful Jolé.
Yeah, no, it's everything you said was spot on, and it's interesting how these things are opening up. Like, we're finding more proof and more science behind some of these things we never even knew before, like the Great Reset, Inner Earth. I mean, there's been people that's known about Inner Earth for a very long time,
Mm.
but just now it's catching on much more momentum than it's had before, and people are opening their minds and their hearts, and there's this whole disclosure thing happening. And I read somewhere that someone said, we believed in aliens, but now the government tell us they exist and we don't believe in them anymore. Really, because the government lies. But we have people who are remote viewing to let us know that these things exist. Ocean, would you imagine, like, we're looking up and she's saying, no, 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 there's things right here with you that will take up so much of your time to remember knowledge and wisdom, and allow you to connect with that energy if indeed you choose to. Now, for those of you that's like, no, thank you, no cuckooies, none of that around me, that is also a choice. You don't have to experience that. I want to reiterate again, any energy, you can set that boundary. Not in my aura layer, not in my energy. You talk to my higher self. My higher self will bring that message to me. And that's why it's important, when we remember, to make sure that we're in alignment and all of us is on deck, meaning the higher self, astral body, center of the head, we're grounded. We have all of our energy we are in control of, so that we don't get these walk-ins, and we don't get this where, somebody else is driving our bus. So these things are important. We're seeing them come to the surface. So let's just open up and remember and return to our wholeness. So that's what the meditation is going to be about as we move into it.
Yes, I'm excited about that. I'm just going to throw in one thing, which is that J.R.R. Tolkien was also very aware of the Middle Earth. he was able to channel a lot of information. People don't know that, but obviously the writer of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all that, all about Middle Earth, right? He was a channel for that. And there's a whole, there's a couple of chapters in the book over there about from his, it was one of his relatives who kind of knew about it. Anyway, I just wanted to share one comment here from the group, from Sheila. Says, "Hi John, I live in the US, but I am from Brazil. There is a guy who is fantastic. His name is Rodrigo Romo and has several books talking about how everything started." So we've now got that noted. His name is Rodrigo Romo, and we have more research to do. So thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you, Sheila. So, right, okay, that said, it's that time, right? We're going
Yes.
for it. Time to go for the meditation. And what we're going to do is go back to a very, very brief section of Elizabeth to lead us into Jolé's wonderful words of wisdom and her meditation. So bear with me a second. We are switching screens.
What needs to happen in order for us to get back to these blueprints? Like, what do we need to do? Do we need to go to Antarctica and knock on your door and say, bring me back, restore my natural DNA? And then she said, which we've heard before from other ETs, mostly off planet, she said, remember who you are and ask to be returned collectively. She's specifically talking about, as a collective, as a civilization, we need to be asking for more. We need to be asking to remember, and we need to be asking to be returned to our original divine state.
Take a deep breath in. Exhale. Bring your awareness to your chest and begin to breathe with the rhythm of your body. Pull your aura in to be 1.5 feet around you. Your higher self above you, standing at the power position, a comfortable distance from your crown. And snap in your astral body. And now ground your energy into Mother Earth as she welcomes you with so much unconditional love and compassion. Golden rose-shaped scrubbing bubbles blanket the inside and the outside of your grounding cord, cleaning off the past, negativity, limiting beliefs, anyone else's energy, disease, illness, and anything you're ready to let go of and release. As you visualize the bottoms of your feet opening like the lens of a camera, calling in 15% earth energy of a color that resonates with you as it pools in the bottoms of your feet and begins to travel up the side channels of your legs. While this is happening, your crown begins to open like the lens of a camera. And 85% cosmic gold life force energy comes cascading down from the heavens, raining down on your higher self, entering your crown and all of the folds, the neurotransmitters, synapses, and all of the things that make up you. Positive thought, limitlessness, shutting down any of the genes and the histories, vows, contracts, agreements, or blocks that are getting in the way of you living the life that you are envisioning and curating. And all of the aspects of the brain that supports you, helps you remember, and also wakes up the collective is being fortified within you. As this gold light moves into the center of your head, moving out any limiting beliefs, negative thoughts. As this is taking place, I'd like for you to place, by visualizing, 2 roses outside your aura to the right and to the left of you. Because as this gold light gets into the center of the head, we're going to go ahead and open the brow, moving out all the people, the places, and the things that no longer serve. No longer a part of us. As this gold light then begins to saturate the pineal gland, activating it, removing the calcification, resolving and dissolving it. Imagine scraping away a surface, and underneath it is this beautiful mosaic. The calcification over your pineal gland. This gold light is dissolving, chipping away, removing, so that the beautiful mosaic and the map of your journey in this lifetime is clear as that gold light lights it up and moves down, giving you and your senses a boost, resolving and dissolving a problem with your smell or your hearing or your taste or your sight as it moves down into the hormones, giving your cells their marching orders that you are now to be in a state of remembering who you are. And from this space, we're going to ask to be returned as a collective to our original state of divinity. So from this space of the center of your head, we are going to reprogram ourselves to ask for more. As this essence trickles down and it moves into the chest and it moves into the stomach and it meets with that earth energy and begins to fill you up like water fills up a cup, you sit in the center of your head, because from here, we're going to reprogram ourselves. It is safe to ask for more. We command this in the center of our head. It reverberates out through each cell of our body, and then it moves out into our aura layer and into our environment. I am worthy and deserving of the best this life has to offer. And I'm asking to remember and be returned to my original divine state. And I ask this for the collective. And as you sit in the center of your head, you're going to watch this unfold. Any negative thought and limiting belief that gets in the way, move it out into that rose outside your aura to the right and to the left of you. And as you are visualizing your return and the collective's return to their original divine state, I want you to sit in the center of your head and allow and see this unfold. Allow for yourself to feel safe as you watch your manifestation, as you watch your alignment with your purpose. You hear it, you see it, and you feel it. Any negativity, that blocks that are getting in the way, moving down that grounding cord, being resolved and dissolved by the integration of the earth energy, 15% of a color that resonates with you, mixing in with that 85% cosmic gold life force energy, pulsating through your body as you visualize returning to your divine state, activating that pineal gland, turning on those hormones in their right way, amount, as it moves into every cell of your body, helping you to return to that original divine state, commanding that it be so. So visualize and sit in the energy of a wish fulfilled. And any and all blocks are moving out into those roses outside your aura. And there's a beautiful, beautiful golden moon above your higher self. Why? Because we're calling back all of our energy from the darkness into that beautiful golden moon above our head. All of the reprogramming, the energy harvesting, the forgetting, all of that is being resolved and dissolved as the energy of remembering, of unconditional love, of positive manifestation, and of joy, and calling all of your energy back into that beautiful golden moon above your head as that Mother Earth and Creator energy work to restore you back to your original divinity so that that powers up that vision that you are sitting in right now of a wish fulfilled. Command it to be so. It is commanded that I align fully with the law of prosperity, of abundance, of rhythm, of neutrality. I give love to the universe, it gives it back to me in more ways than I can imagine. And from this space, I want you to move down that portal into your heart. Because your body now has been programmed, reprogrammed to remember, and it is in its divine state. So now it is time to share. You open up your heart, the double doors of your heart, and you send out so much love to the collective. And from here, you ask for more, not only for yourself, but for everyone. For our frequency and our vibration to be raised. To a space and a place where we do what is most loving for ourselves and for mankind. That this be the new program, and this the first thing that we remember. You are worthy and deserving to live a life of unspeakable beauty and unconditional love. But you must see what that looks like. What does it feel like? What does it sound like? As you sit in the energy of this wish fulfilled, ask for even more than that. See even more than that. From a space of gratitude and knowingness that we all deserve and are worthy of living in a world of a high frequency and vibration built on unconditional love and unspeakable beauty. And I'd like for you to visualize the floodgates opening. And what do I mean by that? Inner Earth opening up and integrating with us in a way that works for both the inner and outer worlds. See yourself embracing new ways of life that are sustainable and expansive. Living in a world where people are free to be who and what they are. And we see ourselves loving and hugging each other. And that's it. There's nothing beyond love. So all that negativity that you feel or that you see, send it down your grounding cord. Call your energy back into that golden moon above your head as you send those negative thoughts and limiting beliefs into those roses outside the aura layer. And you sit in the energy of a wish fulfilled, and of a world of unconditional love. So now you're going to take a deep breath in and exhale. And from a heart-centered space, you're going to see your higher self. Reach up and pull that beautiful golden moon down through itself and down into your crown as this energy gently, with so much love and grace and ease, begins to integrate into your body, mixing in with that cosmic gold life force energy and that earth energy as it travels down into your bosom, into your legs, giving you that motivation, that movement, integrating with Mother Earth, divine life force energy, filling up your heart, giving you the words, the right words to speak in your throat, giving you positive thought and connecting you with divine life force energy as you digest life with such a sweetness because you know you are safe, worthy, and deserving. As that moon essence moves down your grounding cord, chasing those golden rose-shaped scrubbing bubbles into the core of Mother Earth, bringing you into the present moment and solidifying your new reality. As from a heart-centered space, you give those roses outside your aura layer a push. You blow them up and turn them into positive, creative life force energy for anyone to use. And as this vision is so clear in your mind and imprinted it to all of your cells and out into your environment, raising not only your frequency, but the frequency and the vibration of the collective. Go ahead and take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, close the double doors of your heart and allow for that unconditional love to settle inside of you and all around you. As that earth energy and that cosmic gold travels throughout your body, moving that unconditional love into those spaces and places where there may be pain, disease, and illness, moving that out and down the grounding cord. As you take another deep breath in, and on the exhale, we're going to simultaneously close our feet, our hands, and our crown chakras and allow for that earth energy to recede back down beneath our soles, and that cosmic gold life force energy to go back, ascend up into the heavens, us having access to it at any time. As our aura layer glows with so much unconditional love, our skin, our bodies glowing with the energy of divinity. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel I've been fully reactivated. I'm there. I'm back. I'm back to how I used to be thousands of years ago. Now that was beautiful and so on
Yes,
point, and it's a great one to repeat as well, because this is something, again, as a practice, we know, like, or for those who kind of like feel this, that resonate with this message that's been here today, we realize we are so much more than we have not just been conditioned and programmed to believe, but we have been like deactivated. But now is the time of reactivation. We have the ability to do this. So I love that. Thank you, Jolé.
Thank you.
Yeah. And okay, so now we're going to go into wrap up mode. And one of the things I want to say is that we will be doing the edited version of this. And I love doing the edited version of this show because it gives me an additional chance to overlay supporting images, to remove any gray bars that go in between, like when we're actually firing up the change of screens, and also just to add anything that really helps to deepen the message. So, and the other thing we're doing is not just the version of this, the long version, but we're breaking it up into sections as well to make it into bite-sized chunks, because they're very easily shareable. So if you've enjoyed this message today, I encourage you to look for these things and to share them with those who are like-minded, who will accept it as being something to consider within their version of reality. So, it's everybody's, as a sovereign being, everybody's choice about how they see this, whether it's deluded nonsense or potential truth or the truth. So, yeah. And newsletter will go out tomorrow. Anybody who wants to be on the newsletter, send me, and they're not already, send me an email to johndrew@elevatedplanet.live. And in fact, you can send us any comments or thoughts that you wish to on that, or if you're interested in this Moon Alchemy Create Your New Reality program as well, johndrew@elevatedplanet.live. And on behalf of Jolé and I, we will always make sure that you get responded to. And we love being in touch with our community, because a community is a two-way thing, right? It's not just us talking at you. It's about us being in connection with each other, because we know there's a lot of wisdom out there that many of you have that can be shared with us, which means we can get out into the community and share more information as well. So fantastic. So what else, Jolé?
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And maybe you went over that, John. And also keep in mind, we are a donation-based channel. So if anything resonated with you and you feel moved to maybe donate, we'd really appreciate it, because it does help us keep the lights on. We do this for the love of it as well, but we also need to kind of maintain some level of solvency, right?
Yes.
And
sorry, carry on.
no, it's fine. I was just going to say, and there's always the beauty of when you giving out into the collective, it's always coming back to you in many other ways.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's nice to be able to eat occasionally and to keep a roof over our heads.
Right.
No, not that bad, honestly. But for those who can afford it, we truly are grateful for anybody who can contribute to the cause, because, as Jolé says, we do have books to balance, which they are not in a state of balance at the moment. But thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody for the messages today. Really appreciate it. And there's lots of gratitude coming in about the meditation there, Jolé. So that's fantastic. And other than that, I think we're there, right?
Yes. Thank you for joining us again. And we really look forward to doing this more and more.
Yes. And I know this last Thursday just gone, because I was traveling, we didn't do the Pam Gregory meditation. I hope this Thursday we will be doing the Pam Gregory meditation. So for those who can do it, whether it's live or at your time to suit you, that's something we do on Elevated Planet a vast majority of the time. So Thursday evening, 7 p.m. UK, or just 10 minutes prior to that, we get together because it starts at 7. So wherever in the world you are, relative to 7 p.m. UK or 6:50 p.m. UK, come and join us. And if you can't do it live, then just join us when you can, because it is the same effect from an energetic perspective, all adding to the quantum wave structure and helping to elevate our planet. Anything else, Jolé?
No, that is it.
Cool. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you again. We love you loads. We really, truly appreciate you being with us here today. And, look forward to the next one very soon. Thank you.